It is fantasy football season, and trying to decide how to approach your draft, it can be a massive headache. In this series, I'm going draft slot by draft slot, talking over what you can expect to see from your draft position, what strategies you can use, which players you might want to take, and which players you might want to avoid. We'll touch on the sleepers available later on, and we'll even run through a super quick mock draft so you can see exactly how I would draft from each position. Draft from 111, these are the kind of players that you can expect to see there. Garrett Wilson. So far through Garrett Wilson's career, he's caught passes or at least been targeted by quarterbacks like Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White, Chris Streveler, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, and very briefly, Aaron Rodgers. Even at 40 years old and coming off an Achilles injury, Aaron Rodgers is still by far the best quarterback that Garrett Wilson has ever played with. Wilson posted an identical 56% catch rate in both of his seasons in the NFL, but it shouldn't be surprising to see that jump by a good amount this year. The biggest concern will be where the Jets play slow and their defense keeps the games low scoring. Aaron Rodgers has always had his favorites though, and in the red zone, Garrett Wilson can absolutely thrive and easily score double-digit touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs is still stuck in a timeshare with David Montgomery, but we see second-year players take a leap plenty of the time, and he flashed enough potential that he's worth your interest. In 2023, he finished as the RB7 in half PPR points per game, despite the fact that Montgomery led the backfield in touches last year with 17.3 per game compared to Gibbs' 15.8. Gibbs produced explosive runs at a massive 9% big run rate. That dwarfed Montgomery's 3.8. We want explosive players when it comes to fantasy football, and I'd take Gibbs for that alone over some of the running backs who come just after him. If you're picking at the 111, there's a couple of these players that I just don't want to draft. Saquon Barkley. Having just turned 27 years old this offseason, Saquon Barkley isn't necessarily past it just yet, but he's played over 14 games just once in the last 3 years. Through 7 seasons, he has only 3 1,000-yard seasons. Barkley, he finds himself playing on the best offense and with the best offensive line of his career now, but there's still reasons to be pessimistic. Barkley's averaged 293 receiving yards per season over the last 3 years, falling below 1.0 yards per route run in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and not having been above 1.5 since his rookie season. The Eagles, they threw the ball to running backs at the 12th lowest rate last season, so that doesn't really help Barkley's case either. Perhaps they felt that they needed a more electric receiver, but I'm not sure Saquon Barkley is that for the reasons we just mentioned. This is before we even get into the fact that Jalen Hurts, when it comes to the cheek sneak, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, he had 16 rush attempts inside the 5-yard line last year, the 8th most among all players, and he converted them into 13 touchdowns. Why would you go away from that? Marvin Harrison Jr. The Cardinals, they selected MHJ with the 4th overall pick in this year's NFL draft as they try their best to surround Kyler Murray with enough talent to help him actually succeed. Harrison is currently going as the wide receiver 8 in average draft position, which for a rookie, that's awfully high. When Justin Jefferson entered the league in 2020, he had 88 receptions for 1,400 yards, finished as the wide receiver 11 in PPR formats. Jamar Chase had 81 receptions for 1,455 yards a year later, finished as the wide receiver 5. That's the level that we need Marvin Harrison to ascend to pay off as a rookie. But when Justin Jefferson was in drafts for the first time, you were able to get him as the wide receiver 48 in his rookie year. Jamar Chase went as the wide receiver 29. There is no rookie discount being given in 2024. Marvin Harrison has massive upside, a true elite prospect. But at this cost, there's also massive downside to be had. Why take Marvin Harrison here when you can take Malik Neighbors a couple of rounds later? We're going to use Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard to mock draft. It is insanely customizable. You can sync it to your leagues and automatically copy the settings in. Then it'll adjust the rankings for that. You can choose which expert rankings and insights you'd like to see, including mine, which are part of the expert consensus rankings of over 100 people from across the fantasy football industry. There's no waiting around for other people. Nobody taking 6 kickers in the mock draft. Instead, we can mock draft against the Wizard, get feedback from top experts on our drafts. Check out the link in the description below to start your own mock drafts right now. If you are finding our videos for the first time, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button down below. We are ever so close to 3,000 subscribers. Here we do Dynasty, we do Best Ball, we do Redraft, we do DFS. We get you cooking all year long. Picking up 111, this is half PPR format. We've got 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex spot, defense, kicker, 6 bench spots. Would have liked Garrett Wilson here, but he goes. Instead, let's take Jahmyr Gibbs for that explosivity that we talked about. In the second round, let's start with 2 running backs and go Jonathan Taylor, see what it does for the wide receiver position for us. DK Metcalf is the top wide receiver there, but I prefer Cooper Kupp. Let's bet on him having a bounce back season. DK Metcalf makes it around the corner, so that feels fine as your wide receiver 2. We still need more wide receivers, though. Like, our wide receiver position is not as strong as a lot of other people's. We'll take Amari Cooper, but then around the corner, Anthony Richardson makes it to us. The team on the turn took the double tight end strategy. We are now in a really good position. Let's take Keenan Allen, a really savvy veteran. We've got some pure volume hogs here. The running back position, Jonathan Brooks could be a smash down the stretch. We'll build out the running back room in a way that we can work around him. We've got Jahmyr Gibbs and Jonathan Taylor to carry us. And then down the stretch, if we can plug Jonathan Brooks into our flex position, that could be monster. We could go a lot of different ways with this pick here. Maybe tight end makes sense, but I like taking a rookie, mixing them into this wide receiver room, which has plenty of veterans. We'll take Rome Odunze there. And then as it comes back around, we've still got all our picks of the tight ends. So let's take Evan Ingram. The team on the turn was never taking another tight end after going double tight end earlier on. At the 111, let's go with one more running back. So we're up to 4 running backs. Ty Chandler could really eat into Aaron Jones' workload this year. Jaden Daniels is still on the board. Let's pair him and Anthony Richardson together. Maybe they both get hurt. I mean, Anthony Richardson likes to lower the shoulder. Jaden Daniels likes to take massive hits from defenders. Maybe they don't stay healthy, but maybe we can piece it together and it's a really electric, fun room. We'll take Josh Downs, even though he's injured, for that kind of wide receiver stack with Anthony Richardson for later on in the year. We do probably need another tight end, but it's time to take a kicker in a defense. So let's take Justin Tucker, the best kicker there ever was. And then with the defense, we'll take the Houston Texans, who have some really nice young players there. We got an A, 95 out of 100. It worked out perfectly here. Shout out to Pat Fitzmaurice, Joe Pisapia, Andrew Erickson, who all gave us green grades. Derek Brown, I'm looking at you. So you can see the mock draft wizard projects us to have the most points out of anyone in this league. You drafted 1 player in the top 3 at the position, Justin Tucker. So even though we didn't get the top 3 players, we just got enough quality throughout to make up for it. Here it says if we drafted George Pickens at the 6'2 and drafted a QB later, your score would have been 21 points higher. I'm good with that. I think what we have in Anthony Richardson and Jaden Daniels is a really fun selection. We got real value at the tight end position in Evan Ingram, 2 rounds later than he's ranked. Jaden Daniels, 4 rounds later than he ranked. You might not see that happen in every draft you're in. What would you have done differently from a 111? Leave me a comment. Leave me any questions you have. We answer 100% of comments and questions around here. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We'll be back very soon bringing you more content to help you win big in 2024.